welcome everyone to What the Fiction. I'm Marie-Claire Gould, and this is...
Kyle Gould.
Yes, and this is our Falcon and the Winter Soldier pre-show, where we're going to talk a little bit about the characters, some of the stuff you might not know or maybe are interested in knowing before you dive into this. We're going to release it a couple of days early so that you have a chance to review this and then dive right into doing weekly recaps of the episodes. So we found out about this show, I feel like it was a really long time ago. And I've been a massive Captain America, I don't know, franchise fan. I mean, can you be that? But I loved every single Captain America movie. And it was, I mean, big in like so much to do with how much he had chemistry with both. He had chemistry with both Bucky and with Sam. And so, like, the fact that we're getting a show with them together is just really so cool.
Yeah, it's like the Jean-Claude Van Damme version of a sidekick, because it's two sidekicks at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a scissor kick. You know, the splits kick. We got two sidekicks.
Yeah, it is.
At the same time.
It is really two sidekicks. And
Yeah.
And you know, what is life without Captain America, who was very much the heart of the Avengers previously? And you know, in the trailer, we have seen a fair amount of really cool footage. You know, what Mr. James, or you know, it's Bucky. You know, it's like, why does Sam annoy you so much? Or you know, and it's like, because he probably doesn't communicate in the right way for Bucky, etc. And Bucky's old and also has a lot of
it's
problems.
Also like, I was Steve's best friend, and then you came along.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I was Steve's best friend, and then you came along. I kind of feel like both of them are like, hey, you supplanted my best friend.
I mean, yeah, they're both very valid, because, you know, when Sam met Bucky, he was trying to kill, you know, Cap. So
yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's where we're at, right? I really love the themes that are presented in the Captain America movies. It's very much like, you know, what is patriotism? What is the industrial complex that builds war on both sides? That's something that has been really, really fascinating, in how people can manipulate government entities for their own means and their own vision of what the world can be or should be. It tends to be like, especially when you think of the first Avenger movie, that was used quite heavily to show, you know...
But this isn't a deep dive into the first three Captain America movies.
No. But I wanted to talk about like the themes that are presented
That's fair.
in those three movies, because either way, they're going to stand on the shoulders of those Captain America movies, whether we want to or not. They're gonna keep on hitting this. Sorry. They're going to stand on the themes of those Captain America movies, because we even see Sam like in a museum or some sort of memorial looking at like a big, large, blown up image of Captain America. It's probably the museum that Bucky went to go visit and Cap went to go visit that one time. All of this is history, and it all needs to be paid attention to, because it's going to be big. Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of themes of betrayal from the institutions that you're in, from the people that you trust. It's primarily knowing who you are over what a government entity is telling you to do. And that's the big theme for all the Captain America movies. And I'm wondering, as we see this go in, because it's like, you know, vigilantes versus whatever we see in the trailer with Baron Zemo, or that character, what does this represent for these characters moving forward? Because they have been superheroed. They are part of the Avengers. There's a push to regulate these supers, right, from the Sokovia Accords. I feel like all of this is up for play and up for grabs as part of this, in addition to the grief and the loss of their best friend and figuring out who they are after that. Yeah.
Cool.
That's where I'm at. Let's talk more about the characters and where they came from in the comics, to give us more of a history of, what possible threads they might pull on. Kyle, you've read like way more of these than I have.
I really haven't, actually. I don't have an extensive understanding of who Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, is, and who Sam Wilson, the Falcon, is. Nor I never really had much of an experience with either what's the name of it? It's like Flag Smasher, which is the weirdest possible name
Flag Smasher?
Yeah, I know. I'll get to that. Or Baron Zemo, Agent 13. These are not characters I'm overly familiar with. My expectation, I have actually tried to not watch trailers for Falcon and the Winter Soldier since they dropped. I liked them in the first few movies, the MCU versions of them. They were cute, they were fun, they were sidekicks, they were secondary Avengers, and they had roles and parts to play, especially when we flipped the Winter Soldier back to being a hero again, the multiple times that has happened now. I've enjoyed that. It's not the reason I'm watching the movies at all. And so it was very interesting to see, it's Falcon and the Winter Soldier. They just gave two sidekicks a full show. Not only that, but now it's the second entry into phase 4.
And it was supposed to be the first one.
I know. And they're pinning a lot on this. But they have such a really cool dynamic.
Yeah.
When they're running and they're fighting Spider-Man in Captain America, that's hilarious in Civil War. It's one of the highlight moments of me when he blasts them both and they're laying there groaning on the ground. And then he has Red Wing zap the thing. Yeah. And he's like, how long have you been waiting to do that? And he's like, long enough, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, these two guys don't really like each other. And now it's obvious to see why.
But they have really good chemistry, like on and off.
Exactly.
The set, like when they did the Civil War press tour, they were so funny together. Like they were basically paired together for most things. And they have very hilarious chemistry. And I think that the writers saw that, because that sort of like the vivaciousness of Falcon or Sam or Anthony coming through, and then like Sebastian Stan like literally just like either being embarrassed by something Anthony said, or like that seems to be like what they're accentuating, just so it feels more natural with what they're coming up with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I compare it to the fact that you put Thor in a movie being, blasted by a dying star. Yeah. And then you put him in a movie next to Captain America, and Captain America looks like a schlub, right? He looks like just a guy off the street. He's playing shinny street hockey against a professional hockey player, right? And then you put in the same movie, you now throw in Falcon and Winter Soldier, a guy with a special arm and a guy with wings. Yeah. And they have like no special abilities or features or whatnot beyond that.
In the MCU, Winter Soldier has had a super serum of, well, he's been experimented on. That is what they have said. He has the ability to live longer,
but that's because he's been cryogenically frozen to move along time.
I am aware, but they have given him stuff.
Yes.
And also he's got his cool vibranium arm now.
Right. He's always getting an arm upgrade. Like,
Yeah.
And one of the things that I don't know if they really mention it in the movies is that when he's cryogenically frozen, his arm is always upgraded. It's always like he first had a can opener arm, and then he gets a different arm, and
I
they're
had no
constantly
idea.
upgrading the arm on the Winter Soldier to newer tech. Because how would that be the case? Like, he has a fancy schmancy arm in Civil War, right? When he finally loses it, it's pretty like he lost the arm right away, and they gave him an artificial arm, and then supposedly through the years that arm has been improved upon while he's been asleep in.
Well, I mean
Genesis.
That's not something that they ever went into. So with these two characters, when was the first time that you actually like came in contact with them? Because it wasn't through the comics.
No, it's the collectible trading cards. In 1990 and 91. That's when I first got my Falcon and my Captain America, my U.S. Agent cards. I hate U.S. Agent, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like for me, it was a superhero squad for Falcon, and one of the Marvel games that we played.
Ooh, Avengers Alliance.
Was it?
Yep.
Avengers Alliance, it was
on the Wii.
Oh yeah. Where you put the little figures on the stands.
The figures on the stand.
No. Never mind.
HeroClix sort of thing, or were you talking like a video game?
Infinity. Was it Infinity?
Oh, really? Disney Infinity was the first time you encountered.
I'm trying to remember.
Sam?
No, not Sam. Winter Soldier, and like the history of Bucky. Like we played a video game. It was a Marvel video game, and I was like, "Who is Bucky?"
Okay, so would you like to know why that is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I
maybe
actually
we can
know
talk
nothing.
a little bit more about the history of these three characters, because I think if we talk a little bit about the history in the comics of these characters, we might see some more of the themes. We're talked about how they stand on the shoulders of the Captain America movies, but these characters have histories of their own. Will they be bringing some of this history in? And if they don't, because they always do, they bring it in different twists and variations, but they usually try to stay true to themes of those characters, right?
Yeah.
Like the themes in Thor are almost universally like, am I strong enough to be king? Am I good enough in my father's eyes?
Yeah.
It's so funny that the guy who's worthy enough to wield Mjolnir is always worried if he's worthy enough in the eyes of his dad.
Yeah, and also like, there's a lot of repentance for mistakes and stuff in Thor, but yeah, that'll be great.
Okay, so
I know nothing.
Let's start with the oldest character in the group and work our way forward.
Is it Bucky?
Bucky was created in 1941.
What?
By Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. He is not even a Stan Lee character. He's older.
He's an original Captain America character.
Yes,
he was originally the sidekick
character.
Yeah, he was the original sidekick.
As a teenage sidekick
of
for Captain America. And the funny thing I read about this is that Joe Simon had like a guy in his high school that he was like this kid was just incredible. He played on the basketball team, and Joe Simon thought that guy is absolutely amazing, and his name was Bucky Pearson, and he is the inspiration for Bucky Barnes in the comics.
So his name was Buchanan. Probably.
I have no idea. Bucky Pearson is this guy who is now immortalized as Bucky Barnes.
It's a very like classic name.
So
yeah,
from 1941 to 1949, Bucky Barnes was the sidekick for Captain America.
And the comic itself was promoted, very similarly to how it plays out in the MCU as like, something to help people rally around the war effort in World War II. So
right. So he was a big character, and there was a whole bunch of war, and then people wanted to move on past that. And then in 1949, Bucky Barnes was removed from Captain America. Actually, Captain America pretty much stopped getting produced as well as a comic book. I mean, it was still there. There were one-offs and whatnot, but Bucky wasn't in those comics. And the reason why is because Stan Lee, Jim Lee's the guy in DC and one of the comic artists from the 80s.
Yeah.
Stan Lee hated teenage sidekicks with a passion. He hated them. He said that is unrealistic that you would want as a superhero to put a teenager in harm's way.
Throwing shade at DC.
Exactly. Like it was a thing. Like he drew a line in the sand and said, we're not doing this. And people were like, but teenagers are the ones reading these comics. They're the ones who are going to see themselves as that character. And Stan said, no, they'll see themselves as the hero, not the hero's sidekick. Okay.
Interesting.
So what happens? In 1968, as a Captain America thing, they essentially kill off Bucky Barnes.
I feel like I've heard
1968.
I've heard about this.
And there was an unspoken rule in comic books that only 3 characters could be killed and not brought back. Anyone else could be brought back.
Who?
Any guesses as to those 3? So we got Bucky Barnes.
Is it all comic books like DC?
Basically, it was a rule across comic books that people had said these 3 characters cannot be brought back. Any guesses as to who those 3 are?
I have no idea. There's got to be a DC one that like somebody died. I mean, it wasn't Superman because the death of Superman was later.
Back, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these 3 characters have died and cannot be brought back.
Big lies, though, because
they are in fact big lies because they kind of have come back. So one of them I thought you might get right away. It's Uncle Ben.
Oh,
you cannot
bring back Uncle Ben.
He is a center stone, he's a load bearing stone of Spider-Man's mythos and ethos.
That tragedy and passing on the words of wisdom of great power, great responsibility. Or if you're the MCU, you really just don't care what happened before the MCU. So
yes, the other one is and I didn't think you would get that. It is Jason Todd.
Jason Todd.
He is the second Robin after Robin.
Oh, right. Is that the one that was killed by the Joker?
Yes, I think. I'm not a big Batman fan.
That was the one that totally broke Batman.
So
mentally.
Jason Todd, Bucky Buchanan, and
Uncle Ben.
Those are your 3 that could
I don't
never
think
be
we've
brought
seen,
back.
Like Jason Todd has died again in things.
Right. Well,
but I don't think Jason Todd
alternate universe Jason Todd.
Yeah,
right?
No, I know. But he's come back, but he always dies. So he's like the lone holdout.
He is not the lone holdout.
Is he?
No. I mean, they haven't brought. I mean, so Uncle Ben has only come back in an alternate universe Uncle Ben in the same comics.
Right.
So like even Uncle Ben is not one that is ever resuscitated in the same universe. Like they may restart things and kill Uncle Ben again.
Okay. Yeah.
But you
I get what you're
bring
saying.
Him back. Now.
Okay.
1968, they kill Bucky.
Okay.
He's dead.
And they're like, rule.
And they basically came up with this rule. Like later on, you cannot bring him back.
Do not resuscitate.
He cannot be brought.
Bucky,
he cannot be returned.
Bucky Barnes, do not. Okay.
Now, the reason you don't know this character very well, and you don't know Winter Soldier, is because guess when Bucky Barnes was resurrected?
Is it like the 90s?
No.
Is it the 2000?
2005.
What?
The year after we got married, that's when the Winter Soldier was brought in.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
He's so new.
He's 16 years old. That's all we have for history of the Winter Soldier part of this. He's a baby. Exactly. So, like, he's only had 19 of his own comics. Like, he had his own run, it got canceled. But, like, 19 of his own comics as the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, but he didn't exist before that? Because I feel...
No, Bucky was dead.
I'm experiencing one of those things where I've written him into the history of comics, but he's a baby.
Exactly.
What?
So all of the stuff that we're getting is really new for
it's cool,
the
though.
Winter Soldier.
I wonder
all these pieces.
Because, like, that was around the time that they were probably discussing the Disney acquisition, and they were probably like... well, now we're going to be dealing with aging actors for superheroes. And maybe they were like, let's do this because we have this cool character.
Well, Iron Man isn't until 2007.
Well, yes.
So MCU doesn't start till then.
I know.
And Bucky, Winter Soldier's brought out in 2005, caught like wildfire. People, like he got his own comic.
I mean, it
for
was
19
just
comics.
Like the Winter Soldier like story is just so cool because it's like, he ended up becoming a bad guy. He's got all of this like buried history that they could pull out at any moment to do with like the whole like Soviet
They
Red
basically
Room
retconned
group.
all of that in 2005 and rewound the time to say that he was
was
never
there.
dead. He was never dead. He lost his arm, exactly like it happens in the movies. Never dead, lost his arm. He's been rewired. He's
Yeah.
been cryogenically frozen and brought back, basically like the Winter Soldier we
I
have
feel like
now.
I've tricked myself into thinking that he's been around forever.
Exactly. That's because
That's crazy.
the character has.
Yeah, the character has, but like I remember like the video game we played was way before that because I think we were just like, yeah. I don't think the Winter Soldier was in that video game. Maybe he was. I don't know.
Yep.
But the Red Skull kills Bucky in the video game, and I was like, what? No.
Well, I mean, one of the great
Yeah.
things that stories about this from the Winter Soldier's perspective and why it's relevant and it catches on to people, and I think that why it's so meaty is that Captain America and Bucky had this friendship in their youth. And we all have those friendships, those core integral friendships that you make with a friend in high school or junior high school even, where you're like, we'll be friends forever. And then they're like, forever. It's not a question. They're both stating it. They'll be friends forever. But then time does
you go your
strange
different
things.
ways. Yeah.
And yet that kinship is at some root level still there. So when you do see that friend again, you can feel that. When you're beating each other as a helicarrier falls and the glass is about to shatter, you will remember your true friendship.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I'm with you to the end of the line. That's always the line. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you I'm like, yeah, I have that sort of friendship. That I know that's true. Doesn't matter how the winds of fate may change me. I will always know that friend over there has my back. And that's why that's an eternal theme that I think touches upon and why it's so relevant in the movies and so touching, right? Like, I really feel when Cap doesn't side with Iron Man and instead protects the Winter Soldier to say, like, no, this is my friend. And no matter what he's done, no matter where he's gone, he will always be my friend.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I don't know why I thought that that's like Marvel has incepted me with the idea that he's been around forever, but I did no research for this. So as you can tell, you did all the research and
now he's lost
you get my
his
reactions.
friend.
Yes. Now he's lost his friend.
So we are going to be dealing once again with loss.
I know.
Loss is again at the heart of this show.
I know. They talked about that. They're like, there's similar themes to WandaVision. It's like, duh, the blip, duh.
We just had that loss bit
I know.
in WandaVision, but not only that, but in Spider-Man,
I know.
we dealt with that with Tony Stark.
With Tony Stark
Like
too.
we constantly got barraged with Tony Stark imagery to show us, hey, his loss is deeply felt by this kid who considered him to be a surrogate dad. Now, then we have loss of dad, loss of husband.
I know.
And now loss of best friend.
Damn it, Marvel!
Yes, like, wow. I mean, did you know the pandemic was coming and we would all be feeling depressed and need this catharsis of seeing somebody else lose stuff on TV to make us go, yeah, it is hard to lose things, to feel it ourselves. Because that's what we need nowadays.
Yeah. And also like an opportunity to like, push that onto the character, feel that with the character and get that release, that catharsis is perfectly okay. It is actually one of the benefits of fiction. Like the Greek tragedies used to do this quite regularly with people. So it's cool. I guess we needed more of this. Yes.
Absolutely.
We need to grieve the loss of the people that we can't see any longer.
Okay, so Cap's modern day best friend, right?
Yes.
All right, name
Sam.
is Sam Wilson.
Yep.
And he was created in 1969.
Wow.
He was created by Stan Lee and another guy. I didn't write those things
And he
down.
actually had like real wings, right? Like the hero
Real wings?
Like weren't they real?
Oh, no.
Oh.
It's so much weirder than that.
Okay.
He
I'm not
starts
ready.
off as like an army guy, but also like wanting to preserve, and he's trained a Falcon. He's a guy with a trained
Red
Falcon.
Wing. Yeah.
Red Wing.
Yeah.
And he gets sent to an island, and I haven't read that comic, and I don't even want to read the synopsis of it. It's so bad.
Okay.
He gets sent to an island, and bad things happen, and he ends up saving the day and becoming friends with Captain America. And he's just a guy with a bird. He literally is a guy with a bird. And eventually, he's given the ability to like see through Redwing's eyes, and so Redwing can fly around, and he can see through Redwing's eyes, and he can kind of experience and direct Redwing through this like emotional bond that he has with his bird. He's a man and a bird. That's literally what he is. And
it was the 60s.
He's a social worker. And I know that was a big element and aspect of his character, is that he's a social worker with a bird, and he saves the day. And then eventually his powers grow, and he's able to see through the eyes of all of the birds.
Oh my God.
So he can basically see everything that's happening in New York through the eyes of all of the birds in New York at any given time. And there's like 12 million birds, and he can see through all of them all at the same time. You know how in Batman, I think the third one, how he turns everybody's cell phone into video, like it's like that. He's like that. But this is like the 60s. Okay, now he becomes such an important character that they literally change the cover of the comic.
I need to know why, though.
I couldn't tell you why. Whatever that is, it's for the birds.
Oh my God.
In 1971, they literally changed the name of the book, not the trademark of the book, but like the cover of the book becomes Captain America and the Falcon.
What?
From 1971 to 1978, he was the secondary character. Like, he was on the cover of the book in title for that many years. He was Marvel Comics star African-American black character, and that's what they said when they walked in. They're like, we need to make a black character, and Stan Lee's like, ship it immediately, because they didn't have any.
No.
And
I mean, fair,
like,
yeah.
They recognized the need
So this
of it.
was before Black Panther.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
So this is 1969,
Okay. Yeah.
and he becomes this, he's so important. From 1971 to 1978, he figures so prominently in all the stories. He's on the
I don't mean to
main
laugh
page.
at how weird it is, but it
is weird.
It's super weird, but
okay, so
I'm happy he became like Captain America and Falcon.
Yes. So it's just Captain America and the Falcon for a long time. And then he joins the Defenders at one point, which sounds like a really cool option. I could totally see, Luke Cage.
Yeah. I mean, he would be on par with those guys.
Like, he hangs out with Daredevil and whatnot, right? Like, running around. I could totally see that. He joins the Defenders for a little bit. He joins the Avengers for a little bit, which makes it like he's a man with a falcon. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And then he becomes the head of S.H.I.E.L.D.
What?
Yeah, I know. I know.
I'm like, you were like, don't do any research on the comics. I want to see you react to this stuff. And I was like, okay.
And then Baron Zemo, I know.
Wait,
I know.
what?
Baron Zemo does a thing and goes boodly 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 to poor
Sam
Wilson, probably because there's a new writer that's taken on. I'm like, I'm going to take him in a new direction. Well, he erases his social worker past and says that that's been a cover up that he didn't even know about. And his name is Snap Wilson, and he's a thug and ganger. And he totally changes him to be like a bad guy. And this is around the same time.
Really problematic.
Oh my gosh, there's so much going on at this point. But you know how I told you Baron Zemo went doodly 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 to
Baron Zemo has powers?
Yeah, see, it's not that he has powers, but I'm saving this word because the same thing happened to Bucky Barnes when he was the Winter Soldier. This same artifact was used to turn him back into Bucky Barnes. So a lot of people have conjectured that the Winter Soldier isn't in fact possibly Bucky Barnes, but that it is the wish that was passed on through the use of this device to make him Bucky Barnes. And people have since debunked that, but it's the Cosmic Cube. Both of these characters, which is the Tesseract in the MCU.
Tesseract,
So the Cosmic Cube is responsible for massive overwrites of the personalities of both of these characters.
Wow. That's so fascinating. I mean, we don't have the Infinity Stones any longer, so that's not necessarily something.
How are we going to pursue that?
Yeah, I mean, but they could tie in something from Baron Zemo trying to do something to them.
Well, what we do see in regards to this, and Baron Zemo, I think especially, is that we can see that these characters have had personality flips that have said, you were a good guy, you're a bad guy. You're a bad guy, you're a good guy. And I think that we've seen some of that already with Bucky as the Winter Soldier trying to work his way back to being a good guy. Can we see that with Falcon, who has always been a good guy, and then he sides against the Sokovian Accords, and are they going to be perceived as the bad guys?
Yeah.
Will there be this bad guy element where they're constantly on the run because government agencies are after them? That's my thinking.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely is a theme. I'm wondering if he's actually going to do something to them to make them seem like bad guys, much like his plan in Civil War, which was to have Bucky changed and then come and pretend to be a bad guy as well. So that seems to be like his MO, and I wouldn't be surprised if he did it again.
Yeah.
Because he's the one who caused all of these like Sokovian Accord issues, right? Man.
He was totally allowed to be the sidekick of Captain America because he was an adult.
Stan. He just didn't like teenage boys hanging around. I mean, fair.
But the Falcon was super popular and has had so many different iterations over time. The iteration that we're getting
when did he get wings?
He never really had wings. His costume had like wing things that would come up, but he didn't really ever fly.
Really?
Yeah, exactly. He dressed like a falcon sort of thing.
But he flew in Superhero Squad, which is where I knew him from.
I think that is, I don't know if he
maybe a modern
did, but like there's also modern takes, but I really love this take on Falcon. This is such a great take.
Redbird is also
exactly
like the sort of drone like thing
and
that he has.
Seems to be able to control
see it.
Mostly it's from his brain because he's got a tiny little screen. He's controlling tons of buttons with like the ability to know where it is and how it's flying, and he doesn't really have a camera. But anyway, it's amazing. Yeah. And what it does is it harkens to the character's roots, right? We don't need to see the tech to know that this is what this character's about. Right?
I really liked that you pointed out, like, Spider-Man Far From Home and like dealing with Tony. Each of these three shows literally has to deal with like sort of the things Tony has done and the ripple effects of those, right? So Sokovia's whole thing, it is the Avengers, but the only reason it happened is because the Avengers dropped a city.
Yeah.
Well,
the only reason the MCU happened is because Iron Man was such a smash success.
Yes, exactly.
And it allowed them to, on their own, have enough money to build on to make the next. So they're always going to draw back to Iron Man.
Yeah.
Always.
I just find it fascinating.
That's the heart of everything Marvel in the MCU.
Yes, exactly. So
we've got Falcon. And
Winter
Soldier.
Yeah.
And there are like 3 or 4 other characters that are super important that tie into this.
I just feel like I've learned so much that I didn't
We're not done.
know. Oh my God.
So the first one I want to talk about is Agent 13, because there's not really a lot of comic pieces about her.
This is Sharon Carter.
And again, she's going to be our connection to Cap, and she's going to be connected because she's kind of like, these are her uncles in some way, right?
Weirdly.
Right? Weirdly, her uncles. Family, so she
just kissed that one guy.
Yes.
That one time.
Exactly.
That turned out to be her grandfather.
Yeah.
We assume.
I'm going to hope.
Oh, this is so confusing.
Yeah. Glad that didn't go any further.
I know.
Not like other movies haven't, right, Kate and Leopold? So, what's important here is that she's going to be an integral character because I think she's going to show us the step to Sword.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
so
she will probably be working
because she was
Sword,
working for
Shield.
She was working for Shield, and then she joined that international like Accord, the Sokovian Accord like group that was all working together. That were in
the SAG. They're SAG-AFTRA.
Yeah. Exactly.
Sokovian Accord group.
Yeah. So that's where she was in Civil War.
Yes.
Right, working with them, and then we haven't really heard anything from her, and Sword seems to be like the big thing. And it would be interesting to see if they are like, I keep on thinking like if these shows were in reverse, like if we get Sword stuff, people would have been like instantly like in WandaVision, like Sword, you know?
Yeah.
I keep on thinking like, what is the alternate universe of this?
How would that have been if these shows had been
We may
flipped?
bring that up occasionally.
It's glad that it's not. And it might be left outside the realm of knowledge, right? We might get just hints of this, but she definitely is government. She's a representative of an agency. And I think, well, let's come back to agency in a little bit. But there are some bad guys and another guy that I want to talk about as well that are relevant. So Baron Zemo, I don't want to talk about too much because he's at so many different iterations. He's generally a terrorist, a bad guy connected to Hydra. Okay, let's move on.
And he wears a purple mask, which is
exactly
like
and he's
We've
a baron, and that seems to be like anyone named with a baron's name is a bad guy.
Well, it feels a little like G.I. Joe, like influence.
That's fair. Yeah,
right.
Well, Captain America has always been G.I. Joe influenced, right? Or the other way around.
The other way around.
So there's lots of those pieces that are in there. Baron Zemo is a bad guy, and we know that. And I like in the trailer he says my work is not done. And I'm like, that's too bad, because I really liked that redemption arc that happened at the end of Civil War, and then to bring him back in this way to say, like, no, the only good way to deal with a bad guy is to kill a bad guy.
Yeah, I'm going to be really disappointed.
Irritates me a ton.
If that is the outcome of this, I will be so... Okay, one
the only
fear.
way to deal with a terrorist is to kill a terrorist, right? Like,
yeah, I don't. Yeah.
I don't adhere to that line of thinking.
It's just very frustrating because, part of one of the most amazing character moments was the forgiveness that that
Black Panther
T'Challa gave Baron Zemo, and he's like, I'm not going to blame you for this.
Yeah.
And like that was so powerful and amazing in Civil War.
It's just a recognition that grief causes you to do terrible things because it's from a bad place, and that we need to work through that, and we can acknowledge that the terrible things you have done came from having had this terrible thing done to you.
Yes.
And we can work past this.
Yeah. And acknowledging it and understanding it is like so important to that.
Absolutely.
I wonder how I'm going to feel about his motivations. I mean, you asked the question of me just yesterday. Was Baron Zemo blipped?
Yeah.
Right? And that could be entirely possible.
I told you I wanted to bring that up, and I didn't even think to bring it up. I was like, but both of the other characters, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, were both blipped, and I wanted to say, is the blip going to have a big relevant piece in this show? Like, are people who were blipped or were not blipped going to have massive troubles with people who were of the other bent?
Like, they really glossed over it in Spider-Man Far From Home, and
they touched on it in tiny ways.
And they,
like, our entire class was blipped, so they could kind of like not have to deal with the major social ramifications.
You and I have talked about how weird it is that it's like, weird. And all the loved ones have returned in WandaVision. It's like, okay, and how they dealt with showing Monica's experience was really amazing.
Yep.
I honestly think that we might see something. We might see flashbacks or something.
I wonder if Dottie, like Sarah, and her husband's relationship was strained because one of them was blipped and the other wasn't.
Oh.
We'll never know, but that's,
WandaVision post thoughts.
Yeah.
There's so much to do with that, like what that did to society, and like just let alone the people that stayed and like weren't blipped, and the 5 years that passed.
So now we have good guys, and the good guys in the MCU have predominantly over the last little while not had a mask. They show their face. Just a couple of characters don't, like Iron Man because he's got to have an iron face, and Spider-Man because now he's Iron Spider. But everybody else has typically shown their face. There's almost no characters who are wearing a mask. So the people who wear the mask in Falcon and the Winter Soldier are going to be the bad guys. We are like, you're wearing a mask? You're a bad guy. And that's an interesting thing because historically, the people wearing the mask were the heroes.
Yeah,
the people
protecting their
identity from bad guys. And nowadays, well, it doesn't matter. Falcon, he has no family. Oh, Or does he? Winter Soldier, he has no family. I'm sorry, he doesn't.
He's really old.
Oh, gotta be.
He's like
so terrible.
So old now.
So that's going to feature prominently in this.
Okay.
Is that the good guys are not wearing masks, the bad guys are. And we see that. We see Baron Zemo holding his mask to one side and raising it up. We see the character that Erin Kellyman is playing.
Yep.
We see her.
Who's from Solo, a
Yes.
Star Wars story. She plays Enfy's Nest. I'm so excited.
Yes, she is
to have
delightful.
her.
And she is wild. And she's got to be a bad guy because she's putting on the mask.
Or like this weird gray zone area that might be being used.
Exactly.
But there's a lot of anarchy feel to it. Anti-government, anti-control. Kind of love that for her.
Yes.
Want her to be a bigger character than I fear they made her, but I hope that she's big.
Would you like to know who she's playing?
There's a character name?
Yes. She is playing the character Carly Morgenthau. That is the character name that she is playing. Who could be Carly Morgenthau?
Do you know?
Claire? Yes, I do.
Oh my God, really?
Because Carly Morgenthau is a flipped gender of an established character in the comics of Carl Morgenthau. Carl Morgenthau is the bad guy, Flag Smasher.
Who's Flag Smasher?
Flag Smasher is basically just like you said, anti-government agency, and people are like, you're a communist. He's like, I'm anti-communist and anti-democracy. He's basically
a full anarchist.
A full-on anarchist, smashing all the flags. And they flipped him to say, you know what we need is more women in this. So let's take Flag Smasher, this main, not really main, but like he was a
secondary
bad guy.
Okay.
And but also potentially people he's sympathetic in some ways, right? So here we have now Carly Morgenthau playing Flag Smasher, working for Baron Zemo. Yeah, that's right.
I love it.
Yes, I'm super excited. I have no more knowledge than that. I did not want to dig into the history of Flag Smasher because secondary character, not really super relevant, has been a bad guy for a long time and has been in opposition to Captain America for a long time because Captain America is a flag waver.
Yeah, literally
not a
holding the shield
how
flag.
How do you smash a piece of fabric? What a dumb name. Anyway.
I hope she doesn't have that name in the comics
or
in the show. I hope they give her a cooler name, Flag Smasher.
So I'm really excited.
So about it's like the little face like on her mask. They've got definitely the red handprint or whatever.
I think it's a purple thing because Baron Zemo's mask is purple. I think those
it is
are kind
a
of
handprint.
Purple. Yeah, I don't know.
So I took. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm so excited for Erin Kellyman.
Okay, so there's
Carly,
one other character.
Kick his ass. Yeah.
Introduced in 1986 as Super Patriot. And then
this guy
taking over in 1987 as Captain America, because that was the intent. And then in 1988, becoming U.S. Agent. Mm-hmm. We finally now are going to talk about U.S. Agent because I hate him so much.
We're going to get lots of rants.
I hate this character so much.
Okay, so if you've seen the trailer, you see that there is somebody dressed as Captain America, and he's like at a football game, and then he's crying in like a warehouse, or like doubled over or whatever. I think he's going to be more complicated than they've probably made him in the comics, but I know nothing about him, so I will say that. I will say that and throw that out right now.
Okay, John Walker, which is like the most alcoholic name of all characters you could possibly name someone, is a decorated agent.
Okay.
And so he's, you know how in the first Captain America, there's that other guy that they wanted, and they're like, no, I'm gonna take the scrawny kid.
Yeah.
Because he has heart. That's kind of John Walker. He is like the perfect guy. And then they make him a superhero. But because he doesn't have the root of the kid who got smashed in the teeth and couldn't stand up for himself, we had somebody who could always stand up for himself and then now he could stand up for everybody. He becomes kind of a bully.
Oh, okay.
Right? And U.S. Agent has always been a kind of a bully.
Was he given
Yes,
superpowers?
He has super abilities.
Oh.
Not as good as Captain America. He can only pick up like 10 tons, and he can only punch through one brick wall instead of two.
But they tried to replace Captain America.
Yes.
That's what we're getting.
That is the point, is that they're getting to the thing where
and
they
he was like
replacing
the
Captain
faux Captain America, the Captain America knockoff, and also didn't have any of the good heart.
Well, it's just he didn't like it because all the DOPs were written with Steve's name on them, and he's like, "Oh, but I'm the Captain America now," like because he's the follow up, right?
Yeah,
he's that, Captain America took us to like 14 Super Bowls in a row, and he's like, "But I've brought you to 2. Yeah, it's only 2."
Yeah,
so.
Yeah,
Johnny
it definitely...
Walker,
like the whiskey or whatever,
exactly,
or the scotch.
John Walker,
who was drunk
agent.
writing this character.
So it's going to tie down to the fact that Captain America he was an emblem, he was a superhero of.
He had that symbol,
the government,
the symbol of the government,
the army, right? He was an army guy, and you cannot take the shield and the title of Captain America, says the government, I'm going to guess, and pass that on to a civilian who used to be in the army but has been discharged. He is just a guy. You cannot give that to him.
Yeah, and both of those characters, Bucky and Sam, have basically said like, screw government oversight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So both of those guys have been Captain America in the past too, right? Sam and Bucky, post 2005, have been Captain America. So now we've got the other guy that's been Captain America in the past in U.S. Agent. So now, U.S. Agent, I hate him, and you're going to hear a lot about why I hate him. But I'm really happy with the actor they chose.
Okay, who's the actor? I know nothing.
You do. The actor is Wyatt Russell. And Wyatt Russell is, I don't know if he was ever in the full-on NHL, but he was definitely drafted and all these other things.
He was a hockey player?
A big hockey player. And I mentioned...
My Canadian heart just skipped a beat.
I mentioned his hockey player quality because one of Marie Claire's favorite movies is a hockey movie, and it is...
Goon.
And in Goon 2, The Last of the Enforcers, the bad guy who takes over and beats up the poor character in Goon... is U.S. Agent.
Oh, wow.
Is Wyatt Russell.
Nice.
The blonde guy, bushy beard, dopey grin. That's U.S. Agent. I know. And so you love to hate him already. He's already punching and beating up our protagonist. So you can't have seen Goon Last of the Enforcers and then also wanted to have U.S. Agent as like, he's going to be a superhero, right? You wouldn't have cast him. But you're going to cast the guy who punches the protagonist in the face until he loses his front teeth. You cast this guy.
Was that all he was in? Like because he played hockey?
He's been in other things, right?
Okay.
Yeah, he's been in lots of other
like he was
things.
like minor hockey, or not minor, but like
AHL level hockey, high level hockey, not NHL hockey. Yeah. Right. Anyway, so what's important to note, he's good at hockey and he's good at punching people, and that makes him good for Goons. And he's been in other things, but I really wanted to point out. But he also has
that like traditional like brawler type. Probably style when they're showing him, and that's
there's a certain physique that requires that you were required to have if you're going to punch someone in the face and get punched in the face while wearing skates. Yeah, that's just a thing.
It's just a thing,
right? So
God, this is entertaining.
Yeah. And so John Walker, U.S. Agent, is he's got to be one of our bad guys. He may very well be the big bad guy in the end.
I think he might be complicated.
I hope so, but at the same time, I hope not, because I hate him. I think he's Tyler Hayward's brother, and I honestly think that they're cut from the same cloth. That's all. Okay. So those are the main characters that I really wanted to talk about that are in the show. And now this show is happening. Yeah. And so one of the other things I liked to think about with regards to WandaVision
was the creators, right?
Who made this show? Yeah. Where did they come from? Why did they want to do this? Why is this the show that they want?
And they pitched it and were passionate enough to get people to be like, 2 sidekicks, go get them.
Exactly. So we have our showrunner, executive producer, and head writer. Okay, this is the person with the vision. Yeah, right?
This is the person that had the PowerPoint slides.
This is Malcolm Spellman, whose main claim to fame is the TV show Empire. And he was a writer, co-writer,
okay.
drafter of that for like 3 or 4 years. Big play in Empire, the TV show. But we never watched Empire.
No.
So I never
I heard about it. People loved it.
Great things about it, but it just didn't fit our schedule of non-TV watching that we have been to for the longest time. And it's not a C-drama, so then it's not going to be watched.
Yeah.
So
fair.
But it had a lot of depth and interplay between characters, a lot of betrayal.
Yep.
And I think that he looked at the relationship between Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Malcolm was like, I want more of that.
I mean, everybody did. They were like, we just want them to go on a road trip together.
Exactly.
And like we'd watch that in that little like blue bug from the Civil War. Yeah.
But Malcolm Spellman is not a director.
Okay.
So
just a writer, idea guy,
showrunner, executive producer. So they went out, or he went out, I'm going to guess, as an EP, and he got the director that he wanted. Now, she never directed a single episode of Empire, but she's directed pretty much everything else. At least 2 episodes of like a litany of TV shows.
What's her name?
Her name is Carrie Skoglund, and she's a Canadian.
Yay!
And so these are the 2 people that I'm going to be watching over the course of this show, that I want to look at and she's done so much action TV shows.
That's awesome.
So many brilliant, lots of deep character shots and characters, like great episodes of great TV shows, like so many. Bring in Carrie, she does a bunch of stuff and makes an episode phenomenal, and then she's on to the next TV show.
But she's directing
the whole thing.
So all 6 episodes? That's
exactly.
Crazy.
His vision, his inspiration, her vision.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So this is great. What I love is that it's like it's like other TV shows that have, this is the person and this is their vision, right? And we're getting that in both in the last show with Jack Schaefer and Matt Shackman.
Yeah, we got that.
And we got a through line that maybe got some Disneyfication in the final moments and some MCU bits. But I also feel like we're getting that here.
There was COVID too, right?
There was also that too.
Yeah, so but we also, but it's going to start out being the MCU. My hope is that it surprises people with how much it digs into the character and the emotions and things like that.
Yes. And so because Carrie Skoglund has done so many of these action TV shows, I think that we're going to hark on a lot of those pieces as well.
Yeah.
And so part of me starts to wonder if this isn't going to be like a Lethal Weapon sort of style TV show. And I'm just waiting for James Bucky Buchanan, the Winter Soldier, to look over at Falcon and be like, I'm too old for this shit. And be like, you're the Murtaugh. I thought I was the Murtaugh. So we're getting a buddy cop show in essence, right? We're getting the hitman's bodyguard sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
These 2 guys that are stuck together, don't necessarily want to be together. The fun, hilarious hijinks of that, while we get all this brilliant, beautiful action scenarios around us. They go to therapy. That's for the comedy, right? That's where the comedy in those action movies happens. And I think that's what we're gonna get week in and week out for the next 6 weeks. We'll get like a really fun, action-oriented TV show that's also telling us that, government agencies need to have oversight.
Government agencies themselves need oversight.
Exactly.
It's like, who watches The Watchmen was always like, the question.
So now we know who's running the show.
Thank you for doing all of that research.
Oh, it was not that much research. It was just fun stuff to look up.
But it's like, it's mind-blowing how little I actually knew about the history of all of this. Right? And like how weird it is. And also how I've incepted myself thinking that Winter Soldier has been around since like the 70s and he really has not been. Because like now it kind of makes sense. Like that character wouldn't have been maybe idealized until after the fall of the the Cold War was over and stuff like that. So now we're far enough past that we kind of are like, oh, let's tell stories about this weird period of time that happened in the world history, but in this fantasy MCU land or Marvel land.
There was something you told me a little while ago too. You're like, well, didn't didn't Bucky and Black Widow date?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, they did actually in the comics.
They did, yeah. Yeah.
That's the history is that they have.
Yeah, they dated. I knew
he
that.
He woke up from cryogenesis and they dated and then they put it back.
And it was
but this
when
wasn't
she was
until 2005 when they retconned all of that history.
But it was when she was being trained in
when
Russia.
she was still a Russian agent.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
dated when she was a Russian agent.
I knew that.
And then he was put back to sleep.
What I find super interesting is that Sebastian Stan, when he signed his contract back forever ago, he signed on for 10 movies.
Yeah.
So they're planning on using him probably for a long time. I think he's only at 5, so...
I think he's a bit more than that, isn't he, at this point?
Nope.
Wasn't he in Avengers 2? He wasn't in Avengers 2?
Nope.
There you go.
He's only halfway through his contract, so...
Wow.
Yeah.
Lots to do left for Sebastian Stan.
He's
Stan. Still looking good.
Yeah.
So... We've talked about the characters.
Yep.
We've talked about the showrunners who are giving the vision of this and that it'll be a
and we've talked a little bit about the
line.
themes of, Captain America and how those tend to come forward, and this is going to be on that.
Yep.
What do you want
So
out of this?
I keep coming back to agency. And there's like the government agency is doing these things. But I also wanted to talk about agency, which is having control over your own destiny, your own actions, your own future, and being the author to those things. And that is not something, that is something that Falcon has been helping people with in the Veterans Hospital, right?
Yep.
In social groups and as a social worker.
I really love that, part of Winter Soldier when he's like you decide how you carry your own baggage that you've brought home with you. Isn't it going to be in a little purse or is it going to be in a big rolly cart? Like you figure it out. And to me, that ties so much into Robert Bly and the shadows that we all carry with us in a little book in The Human Shadow. If you've never read it, please do. But that is something that, people have to go through. They have to deal with the invisible wounds of war, and it's all part of the betrayal that we as citizens feel from our government when they fail us.
Yep. Which is exactly what Baron Zemo says in the show. So like all of the things he doubtlessly has read Robert Bly. Helmet Zemo has. So
Helmet. Oh yeah, I forgot his name is Helmet.
Yeah.
Helmet.
So agency is important to Falcon, and knowing what is drawing upon you to do the actions that you're undertaken, right? But then we have, and that's subtle, right? That's very subtle, and you have to really think about a Falcon and his viewpoint to see that. In a much more direct, absolutely visible way, we have Winter Soldier, who had zero agency. It wasn't until the
controlled,
end that he was able to then reclaim his agency.
Do you think that there's still programming in him?
Well, he hopes not. That's
I know.
Always constantly the thing. And literally in some of the books, he says, I refuse to take on Captain America's mantle because I don't know if I'm still being controlled in some capacity. And then he would insist on like a huge amount of telepaths in the Marvel universe.
Yeah,
to then
when there was telepaths,
go through his memories to find
all the triggers,
and anything that might still be there that could be pulled out.
I'm just wondering for this show, like, do you think, we've talked about the theme of like flipping to be bad,
right?
Do you think that both of them will be flipped to be bad by the end of it? But I think that
flipping will only be done from a social context. I don't think it will be done internally. But again, I don't.
But it's already happened.
You know how much I hate conjecture.
I know.
Right?
What do you want to see then?
What I want to see is the recognition that it doesn't, the things that have happened to you in the past, you have agency over how you view them. You can change the lens as to how you've seen what you've done and what has happened
to you. Yeah.
And you can make better choices in the future, and you have choice in the future. A lot of the times people don't feel they have any agency, and they feel they only have one choice. And especially in a pandemic lockdown world, you can feel like your agency has been taken from you. And so I think that we're going to see a lot of that in here. And then we're going to get the other side of that word agency, which has to do with government agency and governmental control and government groups probably vying against each other.
And anti control, i.e. the anarchists and
Exactly.
the anti-governmental thing. It's like the extreme of keeping people in check is that there is no check.
Exactly. So we'll
You know,
see
and we
that
destroy
on both sides. And I think
things,
we're going
yeah.
to see a lot of themes and play
Mm-hmm.
on agency. So the things I'm looking for in this show are, how does our buddy cops deal with their own agency? How do they deal with other people trying to claim their own agency?
Mm-hmm.
And how do they deal with governmental control in taking away other people's agency, and also the bringing of people into agency? So one of the ways in which that happens a lot is that, you're fighting against the control of the government. Let's bring you into the government, and then you can work with us, and then you'll feel like you have even more power, i.e. John Walker, U.S. agent.
Right.
So,
yeah.
and at the end of the day, where does the mantle of Captain America pass down? Can it be passed down? And can someone else take on the pseudo mask that Captain America wore? And can they lift up the spirit of America with his own agency of, I stand for truth, justice, in the American way? Well, that's Superman, but I stand for on your
The
left.
shield. Left. Yeah. Yeah.
Is that what you're looking for? Or
Yeah,
what
that's what I would. I want to see the relationship between Bucky and Sam.
go to the next level?
Well, no, what I mean, yes, but no, what I mean is both of these people were valuable to Steve, and so they could find value in each other, right? Like,
Yep.
Previously there was like a triangle from a family systems unit perspective, and now they are on their own as just a duo, and they can't seem to get along because it's an unstable thing.
It was only a triangle because they were both leaning on Steve.
They were both leaning on
Right?
Steve. Yes, that was the stabilizing factor for both of them in their lives was, and then they would occasionally get in.
It was neat to see, though, how much Steve leaned on Falcon.
Oh, definitely.
Right, like he definitely relied on Falcon because he didn't know
And
the
he
way
didn't
of the
he didn't
future
want to
world,
push
and-
Bucky because he's like, Bucky, you broken.
Yeah.
You're so broken. And it would be really good to see Falcon lean on Bucky because
Yeah.
we've never really seen that happen. And that's where I think we might get a Falcon evil switch thing where he's like briefly reprogrammed and becomes the bad guy for a while, because then he can understand better where Bucky comes from and Bucky can help him back from that. And then I will cry.
My problem is that I don't know if I'll see that because yeah, I don't want you to cry for one.
No, but it would be good.
But I also can't see that happening because they've got so many bad guys already.
I know.
Right? You've got Helmet Zero, you've got a
We don't know
Flag
how long- are
Smasher,
these gonna-
and you've got U.S. Agent.
These are, yes.
So that's 3 bad guys for 6 shows.
I mean, that's where I think that like Erin Kellyman's character is probably not going to be super huge in the show. We'll see. How long are the episodes going to be? They're going to be like an hour?
My understanding is that there'll be like 45 minutes.
Oh, okay.
You know, and Marvel's been, not Marvel, but Disney Plus has been really good about adhering to those sorts of former broadcasting times. Like if you look at Mando, it largely fits into
Broadcasting
that,
times?
42 to 45 minute television show where they can insert all their commercials. Nobody does that anymore. Stop doing it.
Yeah, we have no limits. Please
Make
just
our shows
make the show
exactly the right length to have a good arc. Just give us a good arc. It doesn't need to have a set amount of time.
Yeah.
You've managed to break that. Also, what is time? In 2020, we have all the time in the world. Right? Frick. It's not even 2020 anymore.
It all comes down to budget and like how much they can actually
Exactly.
afford from a show perspective and what they can afford. And,
But it's all digital.
It's
So-
I know, but it's the sets and the assets and the costumes and
So don't have too many set changes.
yeah.
But fill the story in the set that you have. You don't need to make you do not need to make a whole new house every single episode.
No, fair.
Unless that's an important part of the show itself.
It is, and it was important. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
So I think we're going to get to see some exotic locations. We're going to get to see some exotic sort of heists and espionage and
we saw the fight on the shipping trucks where Erin Kellyman's character Carly is like jumping up and then punching
I hope she
Winter.
smashes a flag.
Oh my!
Smash that flag.
Flag smasher, smash.
I want to call her flag musher, but like, because like,
No.
that's kind of what would happen. You kind of mush the flag, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you smash a
Gently
flag?
fold it and then stomp on it a little bit.
Cryogenically, like freeze it with nitrogen, and then be like, smash!
Either way, I'm looking forward to the comedy aspects,
Yes.
I think, the most, because that's something that I really do love. Although it gets serious in the Captain America movies, there's always like a lot of levity, especially with Sam Wilson,
Yep.
Anthony kicking butt with all of his comedy. But I do appreciate when Sam is able to actually get serious too. And I hope that we get a lot of that. We've only really seen him be like kind of sarcastic and like a little like funny in the trailer. And I think he's just like, when he gives that speech to the VA, like that character just has so much of that in that. And I think we could use a little of that as well.
Yeah,
right
I
now.
hope so.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am pleased to announce that because this is a buddy TV show,
Okay.
that we are going to drink buddy drinks,
Oh my
like when you
God.
would go out with your buddies
Oh,
on a
no.
Friday night.
Oh, no.
So be prepared for Marie Claire to drink buddy drinks. But they'll be like, this week it's a pint of beer. Like, so that'll be easy. But this week will be a depth charge. So that'll be fun. And so we're going to have some delicious buddy beverages that I will put together every week for the 6 weeks of this show.
No.
You can get through it, I promise.
Okay. That's all we have for our pre-show.
Yeah.
That was
Thanks
a
for
lot.
sticking around if you're
Yeah.
still here.
Yep.
I got nothing else for you. It was a lot of history already.
Yeah. And we will be seeing you Saturdays at 4 p.m. Eastern time or 1 p.m. Pacific. So just the 2 time zones. And as long as the show is on, we'll be live streaming at that time here on What the Fiction. We just wanted to make sure that we had a chance to talk about what you can expect from this show and what's going to be happening, or some of the things that we might see because of the history of these characters.
Yeah.
So that's all I've got. If you want to follow us on Twitter, WT Force Media is What the Fiction's main Twitter, or you can follow me personally at Marie C. Gould. You, Kyle?
Yeah. Give her a follow.
No, and Kyle is Tavern Tales DM if you want to check
That'd
out
be
his
great.
stuff. Yeah.
So we'll see you next week on your left.
On your left. Cheers.